Hey there, this is Matt with State of Flux, here with a review for Snow White, the 2025 Disney remake, which is a film that is getting kind of a lot of hate online through mostly what I consider to be bad faith criticism. But this is a film I really quite liked. In fact, even though it's not the highest bar to cross, I do think this is one of the best, or a contender for the best, of the Disney remakes. I think part of the reason why people weren't super excited about this film in the first place is that there's not a lot of enthusiasm in general for Snow White. And a lot of people seem to be quite dismissive of that original film, which I hadn't truly watched until the first day I got Disney Plus. I watched it for the first time in my adulthood, and I latched onto it quite a bit. I've watched it 4, 5, 6 times since then. It's one of my favorite animated films of all time. So I have the reference, and maybe that's where I'm predisposed to like this a little bit more, but by that same token, I'm predisposed to be a little more critical of it. And I just didn't find those criticisms there. I loved how this film was updated. I like how it was a reworking of the original Snow White and a presentation to modern standards and sensibilities that really worked for me. But none of that would have worked if Snow White herself didn't work, and this is where the film shines. Rachel Zegler is phenomenal in the film. Absolutely fantastic. Every bit of promise she showed with films such as West Side Story, she brings here. She has an energy that is just infused into the film that takes you with it. And she's able to carry not only her singing performance and dance scenes, but the kindness, gentleness of the character of Snow White, as well as being somebody that has a rich pathos that she can engage with. And she is really good all the way throughout the film. Acting opposite of her is Gal Gadot, who is also very much there. She would be one of the criticisms I do have. Even though my criticisms are few and far between, Gal Gadot I didn't love. I didn't think she gave a bad performance, as many people, especially on Letterboxd, seem to think. But she just kind of brings the same Swedish Chef energy she has to basically every role besides Wonder Woman, and chooses to go quite large and animated with her performance, which I think could have worked, but being that a lot of the rest of the film is relatively grounded in the way the performances go, it just doesn't seem to mesh well with anything else. And they give her a villain song, which I think is the only song in the film that isn't quite good. But since I'm skewing too far into the negative, let's swing back into the positives, because there are many. The songs are fantastic. They brought on board the songwriters from La La Land and Greatest Showman to kickstart and infuse life and energy and modernity to the original songs in Snow White. Not all of them are carried over. There are 3 or 4 that definitely are, and I think the versions in this film are in fact better than the ones that we got before. I especially love Heigh-Ho and Whistle While You Work. They are fantastic, but then there are also new songs that really work. The Wishing Well song is kind of rebranded in this film, and Snow White is given a great version of that song to sing, and it's one of the absolute highlights, and where the film really sold me on Rachel Zegler's performance of Snow White. The 7 Dwarfs, or the characters formerly known as 7 Dwarves, now there are 7 unusually large caricature people, but only in their face. They really worked for me too. I liked the 7 Dwarves. I know that the animation from the trailers is bothering a lot of people, but when you're watching it in the film, it seems to work and flow. The only time it doesn't is one static shot towards the end of the movie during like the big emotional like climax of the film, where they do a smash cut to the dwarves, and they do look a little silly compared to all the townspeople around. But I love the dwarves. They are super fun, and they capture the same qualities that are present in that old animated feature, bringing it to this film, and I like how they evolved them, so to speak. And they really, really were a highlight for me, as they were in the old film. That said, they have this caricature of Bill Clinton quality. At least half of them look like caricatures of Bill Clinton, and it's like kind of unusual. But that being said, the use of Dopey, who's always sort of been most people's dwarf that they gravitate towards, does get a bumped up role in this film, and it really worked for me. I like where they went with his character. It was unusually sweet, and I really enjoyed that. The animals also look absolutely just adorable. The one of the other elements, there are only two other elements in the film that I don't think work before I talk about the thing that really did help sell everything besides Rachel Zegler, which is that you can see that at probably one point in the script writing stage, they decided not to do the dwarves and instead give us 7 bandits. And it seems fairly obvious that they're stand-ins for the dwarves, but then at a certain point they decided to pot commit on the dwarves, but they'd spent time with the bandit storyline. They didn't want to just like pull that. So you have like 2 bands of 7 characters that are all like just kind of underdeveloped, especially on the bandit side, and it makes it feel a bit cluttered. As I say, I would not be surprised to find out there's an earlier draft of this where those were the 7 dwarves and they weren't putting these the original characters in it at all. But just because they don't get executed terribly well, I do feel like that could have done a little bit of reworking, tinkering, or excising. But that's not, there's not a ton of screen time dedicated to that either, so it also didn't bother me too much. And the film's conclusion kind of wraps up pretty swiftly. Like, we get to what should be the big final showdown, and it seems to be over within, like, a couple of beats. I feel like that could have been extended a little bit more, but the scene that preceded it is so emotionally strong and offers gravitas that I think it works anyway. I wanted to talk about the Marc Webb of it all. When he was originally announced, I was not hugely on board because I think his track record is kind of hit or miss. He's made movies I really, really like, and he's made movies I really, really didn't. And this falls in the really, really like category. I think this is my favorite movie that he has done. But I just didn't see him being able to pull off something like this because I keep remembering his tackling of Spider-Man, making it grimdark, and when he tried to bring a little more light and levity to it in the second movie, it just was obnoxious and didn't work. This didn't have any of those qualities. In fact, if anything, this film is more similar to one scene in 500 Days of Summer, and I should have never second-guessed him when he was announced, because he has one of the best scenes in 500 Days of Summer is the musical number. And he brings that energy to this film in whole, and it really, really worked for me. He does a great job with a lot of the musical numbers. Some of them, there's like a mellowness to that I really vibed with. But when they do like song and dance numbers and stuff, and there's choreography, he allows the camera to pull back and show that. And then he does do a little too much pushing in and stuff on footwork that half of which is digital, so I don't know why he necessarily did that, but you can see that he has a good eye for large musical numbers, and I'd like to see him tackle something maybe original next time. But he did a great job, and not only in the musical scenes. One of the best scenes in the entire film is Snow White running through the woods. And that was really cool because there's this like Evil Dead quality that is brought forth, and it just made me realize that I want to see Sam Raimi tackle one of these, either if not Disney remake films, just like a full-scale musical. That would be tight. Anyway, if you can't tell, I absolutely love this film. It charmed me from front to back. I didn't know if I was going to really bond with the prince, not the prince, the knight in shining armor kind of character, who's been rewritten in a different way in this film, but he won me over, and I really grew to like his character quite a lot. Like, there's really very few criticisms I have. I think the biggest one is that Gal Gadot kind of goes too large and doesn't feel like she works as well with everybody else. However, her costumes are just dynamite, as well as her makeup, and when they turn her into an old hag, she's still kind of low-key attractive, so that just like didn't necessarily work the way it ought to have, but everything else about the movie I loved. This is one of my favorite of the Disney remake films. I think it stands shoulder to shoulder with Cinderella and The Jungle Book as being the absolute best of the bunch. And I said Jungle Book, right? Not Lion King. I just want to make sure. I do not like Lion King. But it stands shoulder to shoulder with Cinderella and Jungle Book. And I loved it. This was easily my favorite movie of the year. However, I've only seen like 3 movies this year, so that's not also a high bar to cross. But I loved it. Let me know what you thought of this film in the comment area down below. There's a ton of controversy surrounding this film, and I think that's where a lot of people are getting hung up on the controversy surrounding the film. But if you can push all that stuff away, what you're going to be left with is a lovely little film and a grand time. My daughter fully engaged with this film and loved the character of Snow White and was able to latch on and gravitate towards her and liked the dwarves and liked the animals and stuff like that. Like, she really enjoyed it, and it was nice seeing that. And also, I work at a movie theater, and I see all these little girls and little boys coming out of the movie absolutely loving it. It does seem to skew much more towards the little girl side of things, but everybody that's been coming out has been like with a big smile on their face and like humming along to Whistle While You Work and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really a fun time. Let me know what you thought of this film in the comment area down below. If you'd like me to touch on some of the controversies, I can maybe do a follow-up video or a spoiler review. Not that there's much to spoil here, but I'd be happy to tackle some of that. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.